Miller Camaro is from Calgary. Driving car number 88 is Vancouver's Tony Morris. And opposite Tony is Bill Tanner, a racing freak from Calgary, number 98 in a Firebird.
Starting in 5th spot is car number 99, Paul Gilligan. And car number 12, the fastest man today, Frank Allers. Now we go to Ken Newens and Western Race Director Tom Wilson.
Tom, are you enthusiastic and optimistic about this series?
Yes, I am. There's 26 drivers here today that raced last weekend at Westwood in the first round in the rain, and they want to go racing on dry pavement here today. We have the glorious weather, and they're ready to do it.
We'll put you on the spot. Who do you think's going to win?
There's 2 teams here today that are right up front. That's the Town Center team from Vancouver. They have Tony Morris and Frank Allers driving their IROC Camaros, and the Financial Trust Maury Keith team from Calgary driving their Trans Ams. They, with Bill Tanner and Paul Gilligan driving, those 4 drivers, any one of them could win this race today.
Good enough. Thank you very much, Tom. Now let's get on to the race.
Well, Ken, our IROC Zeds and Trans Ams are pulling away from the grid. They'll complete 1 pace lap before the green flag and the start of our race.
As Tom Wilson said, John, we've got to watch Frank Allers and Tony Morris. They finished 1-2 in the fog and rain at Westwood, Vancouver in the first race of the series. Now they're driving in the sunshine. We talked to Frank and Tony about today's race.
Once I got in front, there was a spin in turn 2, first of all. And once I got in front, I had a clear track, and you know, and the visibility wasn't as much of a problem as it was behind. So I think that helped me quite a bit.
And what about your situation, Tony?
Well, I got a really bad start with, in the reverse grid, there was a couple of lads that had never started a race before, not that type of race, and I got bugged back by them. And there was a bit of a spin at turn 2, and I fortunately went in the dirt and got away from it, so I was behind Paul Gilligan right from the start.
Track order number 75, Ben Doctor, Rob Peters, John Cattle, Ross Bentley, Andy Mahood, Mark Craig, Bill Johnson, George Aaron, number 3, number 22, Rolf Abereg, Toivo Heiden, 21, Mark Thomas, 17, Derek Ross. We have Ron Edgar, Kent Holden, Carl Hard, John Simonson, Norbert Glimpel, Ernie Romano, and Fred Semple. And they're coming now from corners number 10, 11, and into the straightaway, and the green flag, the race is underway.
And Murray Craig and Gary Miller jump to the lead. As we go inside Ross Bentley's car, we see Rob Peters pushing him to the wall. Peters creates the spin and bounces off Paul Gilligan. Gilligan's car spinning into the dust.
What a disappointment for Gilligan, who finished number 3 in Vancouver.
One of the things that Gilligan will be doing right now, Ken, will be making sure the engine is running. He won't have come in contact with any walls, so he'll be able to get right back out into the race.
But he will be way back, John. He'll be in 26th position. And that's going to be a really difficult challenge for him to get back up in the contending position, I'd suggest, in this race.
Ken, Frank Allers has moved from his 6th spot right up to number 2. He's now pushing hard on Murray Craig for the lead.
And you know that Frank was going to be in there. Those Vancouver drivers, Craig Allers, Morris, Bill Tanner of Calgary, 98 in the Firebird, Gary Miller and Wade Lee, the 20-year-old driver in a Camaro, the youngest racer here in top contention right now.
And Ken, Frank Allers being in 2nd place at this point is not really a surprise, because remember, they invert the start. That means the fastest driver or the fastest qualifier will start from the 6th place.
Murray Craig, and Frank Allers moves right up behind him. There's Allers attempting a pass right now.
He'll have him down this part of the track. It's the fastest section in Race City here, and he'll use the slipstream to his advantage.
Allers has completed the pass and has taken over 1st place.
At the end of the straightaway, they'll get hard on the brakes and set up for the S section to take them down into the back section of the course.
It's even more challenging because there's a lot of mud and a little bit of water and moisture in this part of the track also. We'll return to Calgary and more of the Players Challenge Series for GM Cars right after this. Welcome back to the Players Challenge Series for GM Cars. We're now in the 3rd lap of a 15-lap race. First is Frank Allers in his Camaro, number 12. Second is Murray Craig, number 55. And third is number 88, Tony Morris.
And as we go inside Ross Bentley's car, we see the drivers having to use all parts of the track up on the curving to maintain the speeds.
And we talked to number 55, Murray Craig, who's driving a Camaro of the Airborne Racing Team, about the series in Western Canada.
I believe that this is going to be as close a series here in the West as we have seen last year in the East and again this year in the East. There are some very fine drivers here who have not received the recognition they certainly could have. as a result of just having nowhere to race. And we're going to find that there are a lot of very quick gentlemen out here today.
Well, Murray Craig won't be too happy right now because Tony Morris, number 88, has just passed him to take second place.
That's right, Ken. He just set him up along the inside and took the braking line away from him.
I tell you, there's a lot of challenge in those turns.
One of the things that should be noted as we see the cars sliding out is that this racetrack has not been used before. That means that there's been no rubber laid down, so it is extremely slippery.
And there's a lot of loose dirt, especially in the chicane area. Tony Morris and Murray Craig, the two Camaros, are still dueling for second and third place.
And we're inside with Paul Gilgan, and remember, Gilgan had spun out at the beginning of the race and had to start at the back of the field. He's now moved his way up to 24th, and it looks like Simonson has dropped a wheel, and Gilgan gets by.
A lot of dust there, but Frank Ehlers isn't letting it bother him. Number 12, the Camaro, is still out in front. Tony Morris, number 88, Port Moody, is in second place. Third is Murray Craig, number 55. Bill Tanner of Calgary, the Firebird, number 98, is fourth. And Wade Lee, the 20-year-old, in a Camaro, number 79, is in fifth place.
And here we are back onto the front straight. Again, this is the horsepower part of the track. It'll just be foot right down and hold on.
Murray Craig in third position. You saw him drop back there earlier.
You notice the line that they'll take through the corners. They'll set up and use the speed bumps or the sides of the track to their advantage to try to get a little bit more width.
And you'll also notice the mud, so there's not much room for error, but there is error as number 3, that's George Aaron, wipes out in the third corner, and the yellow flag is out.
Now that yellow flag will indicate to the oncoming drivers that they are to slow down and they're not allowed to pass. They are still allowed to race once they get by that point.
In the back straightaway in the corner, number 10. And George Aaron is still hopelessly mired in the mud. And Frank Ehlers, number 12, in his Camaro, still has the lead. Tony Morris, number 88, second. Murray Craig is third. Bill Tanner, number 98, is in fourth place.
George Aaron is in a very, very dangerous spot, and they brought out the red flag. What the red flag means is that all the drivers will bring their cars back into the pits in single file, and they'll get ready for a restart.
I'd like now to take a look at a piece of equipment that is very vital to this series. Both the IROC Zeds and the Trans Ams are mechanically identical in this series. Identical horsepower puts a lot of pressure on the drivers, skilled to take the checkered flag. In order to guarantee the cars are not tampered with, the engines are sealed at the plant. A further guarantee are spot checks at the race site with the Sun Tester Interrogator. Sun Tester is a computerized diagnostic tool. It plugs into the car's inboard computer and tests all essential aspects relating to the car performance. The Sun Tester gives the technicians a printout of its diagnosis. If the car's timing, fuel mixture, or it's misfiring, the technicians then advise the teams.
Back on the starting grid, this is our race leader, number 12, Frank Ehlers. In second place, Tony Morris. And in third place, car 55, Murray Craig. Bill Tanner is in fourth spot.
Bill discussing the race thus far with his pit crew. Meanwhile, George Aaron's Firebird is just about clear of the track, and the race should soon be underway. Tough luck for George. And there they're checking the order of the cars, and it appears that this race is about ready to go again, John.
And one of the things that you want to bear in mind is, remember, Mr. Gilgan had quite a problem at the beginning of the race, and if anybody has an advantage on the restart, it has to be him. He will be able to group up and run with everybody else.
Even George Aaron gets back in there. We'll continue with the Players' Challenge Series for GM cars in a moment.
These cars, he enters corner 2, and we have a little bit of off-road racing up ahead.
That's John Cattle, number 85, off the track.
He must have just got a little wide on one of those mud patches.
Now he's back on the track. He's game.
Through the S's, the leaders come.
You got Frank Ehlers, Tony Morris, Craig, Bill Tanner, still 1, 2, 3, 4. In that back straight. Paul Gilgan has moved all the way from 26th to 9th position. He's still battling.
And remember, Ken, with the cars being so equal, we have some great races going on farther back in the field.
No doubt about that. And the restart, of course, has helped everybody, I think, maintain an atmosphere and attitude of competition.
Well, it'll almost be like an extra practice session. The first couple of laps, they would have gotten to feel out the track a little more, and it would have given them a break to think about everything.
And certainly the cars and the drivers are finding the track quite challenging at this point. As they ride through that chicane, through those S's.
And again, remember, these cars are on a street tire compound, so when they pick up the dirt or the mud, the tread will throw it off.
And you can see the mud right there.
And we have a great battle going on now for fifth between Gary Miller and Wade Lee. These two have been going at each other all race, Ken.
That's right. Miller is number 69 and Wade Lee is number 79. There you have your leaders again. Frank Allers, Tony Morris, Craig, and Tanner still 1, 2, 3, 4. And there you have Gary Miller and Wade Lee. And at this stage, Frank Allers pretty well controlling the race. Murray Craig in that Camaro.
Now Allers is on to the straightaway again. As we said earlier, this is the pedal to the metal section of the track.
And now we're inside Murray Craig's car. Crowd enjoying this opening day of the Race City Speedway. Race City Speedway road course. Allers, of course, won Vancouver. And was favored to win today, and so far has not disappointed anybody. Frank has owned this track, John, since the second lap.
One of the keys to success in any racing story is that you have to be very smooth and you have to have care to the car. And Allers looks as if he knows that very well.
Bill Tanner is racing in fourth place, and we asked the Calgary racer his evaluation of the Race City road
They just
course.
finished construction. You know, last night they just pulled the cement trucks off at 6 o'clock last night and pouring the walls. So there is a lot of dust and dirt on the track. It almost makes it like it's rain. So we got to be real concerned about the slipperiness of the track. And any track gets worn in after tires go over it. It's certain it gets cured, and then you start getting better traction. So it's going to be a little tough this first weekend for the traction. Have to play it careful.
And Bill is definitely right about the traction point. Again, we're using the street tire, and that means when they get hotter, they go away.
Inside of Murray Craig's car, third place right now.
We have an oil flag out. That indicates that the track is very, very slippery.
There's Tony Morris and his Camaro in second place. And there's Frank Allers off the track.
He's joined by Morris. Now we're in Murray Craig's car, and they're taking a funny line across that track now.
And now Ross Bentley in seventh spot.
And to the right-hand side, you can see the problem right there. It's the mud on the track.
And Bentley is off the course, but fortunately, number 33 gets right back on again. Paul Gilgan also follows back on as the IROCs and Firebirds respond to the tough challenge of the track. And we talked to the director of GM Motorsport, Martin Shenhall, about the cars.
Martin, I'd be curious about why General Motors is involved in the world of autosport.
Well, Jim, in this very competitive business of ours, this is an important message, we feel, and part of our overall marketing strategy to show just what good performing and durable cars we produce and sell to the marketplace.
Well, you're proving it in this series, and my next point would be, what's the difference here between the IROC Zeds and the Camaros we're watching on this track as opposed to what's in the showroom?
Well, Jim, aside from the wild paint jobs and the safety equipment that's required for racing, roll cage and a special harness and so forth, these are as close to showroom stock racers as any series in the world. They're, with a few minor changes, virtually the same car that you or I would buy. In fact, the engine is sealed at the factory exactly with production parts so that there is no tampering, that none of the competitors get an unfair advantage. So it's the same powertrain that you or I would buy to drive on the street.
We'll return for the checkered flag and the Players Challenge Series for GM cars right after this. Welcome back to the Players Challenge Series for GM Cars. We're at lap 13, and this is our race leader, number 12, Frank Allers. Remember that corner 2 is slick, John.
And it looks like a little bit of organized chaos right now.
He backed right into the mud. He's been there before.
I think George has found a home.
He's going to be there for a while, but they're back on the track.
It's that mud that was laid down that we pointed out earlier. It seems to just be causing a lot of traction problems for everybody.
Boy, oh boy, they're lucky they're not going to pile into each other there. There's Bill Johnson slipping his way through.
The trick to a situation like that, Ken, is to keep your foot into the accelerator. Once you lift off the power, you lose control of the car.
Gary Miller, Wade Lee, Paul Gilgan. An amazing story how Gilgan has been able to just battle his way back. He had to be crushed when he went off the track in the very first lap. Lee and Miller still feuding.
Now we're in Bentley's cars. We downshift and enter into the corner. And notice the problems Bentley is having controlling the car. Starting to slide. Gilgan's got by. Gilgan has moved up into 7th spot. Earlier we had a chance to talk to Paul about his career.
I've been off since about 1983, Ken, and we were waiting for the right series for me to get a chance to go back into racing. This series in Western Canada, where we can race close to home and for reasonable dollars and an equal equipment, was just what I was waiting for.
There's Murray. Oh, and Craig went off the track. Back off now. He loves to live dangerously. That corner is a challenge. There's no doubt about that.
Well, it looks right now, again, as if everybody's in trouble because they're trying to brake on the mud. That's causing them to slide off the course. If nothing else, they're getting an exercise in skid control.
They're certainly doing that. Bill Johnson went on by. There's the Protec team. Bill Johnson almost spun out right there and got back on the track. Back in first place, driving easily right now is Frank Allers. However, you remember a few moments ago, he also went off the track. Murray Craig.
And the mud that the tires will pick up from the earlier corner will rub off real quick.
Inside Murray Craig's Camaro right now. And there's Frank Allers, who has led since the second lap. We head now into the 15th lap, and Frank Allers trying to bring himself and, of course, Vancouver back this championship. Inside Murray Craig's car now, he's also challenging, but Allers just seems to be under control.
Like a bit of a war out there right now. Everybody's spread all over the track from the mud. And right now, to use the old cliche, Allers will be feeling everything on the track and all part of the course.
Ross Bentley is in 8th position, and there's Bill Tanner going off the track. Tanner in 4th place on the 15th lap is off the track.
We've got a great battle going on now between Miller, Lee, and Gilgan.
There's Frank Allers.
Avoid it. There's the top 5 right now, as you see it, completing 4 of the 15 laps. Richard Spinard, followed by Robin Buck, Derek Johnson, Wayne Harper is in 4th place. And let's watch this now. This could be a very interesting little battle here as Spinard again in front. And again, watch now. You've got a young driver against a veteran. The veteran has the lead. How much of the road is he going to take?
Well, the interesting thing here is Spinard is in a Camaro and Buck is in a Fiber. Look at this. Here comes Buck on the inside. And down under him. How about that? It's a second lead change between these two. And we've got an auto race on our hands.
And a couple of good ones. And we talk about Robin Buck as one of the good young drivers at 26, but very experienced. He started in Formula Ford championships in 1981. He won a lot of Formula Ford races. Over a year, he was driving 4 series, then moved on through Formula Fords to Formula 2000. Took last year off, but he has come back in this series with an opportunity to go racing and get sponsorship, and he's done very well.
Right. All right, here's a look at that pass again, Ron. Now, watch Buck on the inside. He ducks out of Spinard's slipstream, goes down in the turn, and gets on the brakes hard. You can see the back end wanting to come out. It was a case of Spinard almost being a little too wide there and giving up the lead. However, Spinard is quite experienced in all forms of racing. He may have wanted Buck to go ahead at this point, so to take the pressure off. It's a lot easier to follow than it is to lead and make a move later on in the event and recapture the lead. Be interesting to talk with him once the race is over about that.
Well, the thing that we've been talking to drivers, despite the fact that they have new brakes and so on, you can see them drifting a little bit. You don't like that. That scrubs off a little of your speed if you do too much of it.
What he's doing, he's saving his brakes. You see, he's letting the car go. The tires will last longer than the brakes. So what he's doing, he's conserving those brakes for later on when he's going to really need them.
We'll take a look at the leader, Robin Buck, and look at that tail light and damage to the rear bumper. It looks like the whole tail light assembly has just kind of dropped out in whatever collision he had, obviously, with Richard Spinard. But he continues to lead the race. The Willowdale, Ontario native, Robin Buck, who, with his teammate, drive for the John Powell team. Powell also runs a racing school at the Motorsport area. Off the Motorsport track, has long been involved in motorsports in Canada. He's got his start in Quebec, raced again, Formula B, along with Derek Johnson and many others, and is now retired and is racing, at least running in a racing operation, and is probably very much, John Powell is responsible for putting this series together. It's been a good series. So we're now racing in the 7th lap, and the leader right now is Robin Buck. We'll return to the Players' Challenge race in a moment. We have the first retirement of the race through engine difficulties. I think in the race series, it appears that a blown engine has occurred. Lloyd Service is the driver, number 91. And Service has parked his car, and he is out, and obviously a little disgusted.
You can see that. It's a tough break. You know, these cars have had great records of reliability. So far this year, John, the man who conducts the series, John Powell, said only one engine has failed. And this would be the second one if that's the case. Maybe a hose broke or something, some oil spilling on an exhaust header. And boy, is Mr. Spinard ever leaning on Mr. Robin Buck up there. Buck has got to spend as much time in the mirrors as he is looking at the road, Ron.
Lloyd Service, by the way, from Mississauga, Ontario, is a retiree. But boy, this is pressure, isn't it? He's just right on his tail, and I don't think he's even that interested in passing him right at this point.
We've got about 4.5 laps to go.
He's, you know, when you're in that position where you're just tailgating, you've got it, you've got the draft, you're not using up the car the way you are when you're out in front, and if you feel confident as a driver with the skills of Richard Spinard, obviously is confident, then you just sit and wait and pick your time and then make your move. Now, it'll be a question, if you get down to 2 laps remaining, will Robin Buck let him get by on a narrow circuit like this?
You know, that's the interesting thing here. If he's spending that $5,000 first place money in his mind.
Richard Spinard qualified 8th. We mentioned all the trouble that he had earlier today. One car that was disqualified because of a technical problem, absence of equipment. And then the other car, which he crashed and has been repaired, and that's the car that he has on the track right now. But Robin Buck's pulled away a little bit on Spinard through that last turn. The big thing, or the big problem here, Chris, is that you just can't accelerate. You can't do the things out of turns that you would like to do. These are not supercharged or turbocharged cars, and they don't have that getaway power. So you have to drive smoothly, and you have to pick your time, and you have to make your move at exactly the right time. And if you don't make it right, you throw the car sideways at all, you lose speed. You scrub speed away.
Well, you got 3,300 pounds you're dealing with, and an engine that gives about 190 horsepower. Remember now, they're changing gears. They're standard transmissions, no automatics here. 17 times a lap. So the palms of their hands are going to be well used by the time the checkered flag waves 5 laps from now.
I'd like to say something about this series, the Players' Challenge Series, and what it has done for racing in Canada. We seem to, Chris, run into a period, a flat spot in the development of racing in Canada. It just seemed like there were not series, there was not an opportunity for the young driver to really get started. It's because it's a very expensive sport, and if you don't have sponsorship, you're really in trouble. This series, the way it's been formulated with the backing of the Imperial Tobacco Company, has really done the job. It has brought a lot of young drivers into the sport, at the same time giving it that mix of the veterans and so on to add the quality to the fields. And all of a sudden we're getting a spurt of good young drivers coming along now. The Robin Bucks, the fellow who's leading this race right now, a perfect example. Peter Lockhart, Scott Maxwell, the youngest driver in the race, who we have not heard from too much in this particular race, but was very high in the standards. And this is going to, of course, inject the base for racing in the higher levels.
As I see it, Ron, here's Spinard now. He's going to draft 5 buck and recapture the lead, which he does very easily on Lakeshore Drive. What I started to say was that there's 74 people have signed up for the series. Now, of those 74, there have to be some future stars that they wouldn't have otherwise had an opportunity to show their stuff without this series. And I think that some of the names that are on today's entry list 3 or 4 years from now may well have international reputations.
Wayne Harper has moved into 3rd place ahead of Derek Johnson, who's dropped back to 4th. Sean Burgess currently is in 5th place, followed by Tom Jones Jr., another one of the young drivers who is now up into 6th place. So Tom Jones, who has got his eye on the track here and on his brothers, who watch some traffic being negotiated through here by the 2 leaders.
Spinard had a little problem there with the driver who apparently wasn't paying attention to his mirror, and he almost took care of his mirror. They came that close there. He had to wiggle quickly to get away from him. Now, Buck, you see the points for leading the most laps are very important towards a championship. Don't forget now that Spinard's lead is very slim over Mark Danco's, only 5 points. So if Spinard can lead the most laps, he gets an extra point, which is what he's shooting for now.
Spinard, who has won 3 of the 4 races, looking for his 4th victory in the series so far. And currently under some pressure, and it appears that Robin Buck is going to try and take a run at him before this is over with, as we are now on the 12th lap. There's just 1-2 right now, with again Derek Johnson dropping down to 4th place, which will be his best finish if he can finish it there behind Wayne Harper. Let's see if we can take a look at the secondary battle. We've seen, of course, a lot of the first. There's 3rd, 4th, and 5th right now. So what we're looking at here is car number 47, driven by Wayne Harper, in front of Derek Johnson, who's trailing him right behind, and then car number 17 with Sean Burgess. So they're very close. So we've got 2 battles going on here, the battle for the lead and the battle for 3rd place.
Remember that the money only goes down 5 places, 1st through 5th. After that, it's just respect and honors. So the money is up front.
Well, Derek Johnson continuing to chase Wayne Harper along with Sean Burgess, but it's Harper right now who is, if you'll forgive the expression, in the driver's seat right now in 3rd spot. But the leaders, here they come. And boy, this is something, isn't it? Now he's going to try him again, and he's got him. He's got him on the inside, and he forced him wide again, well, just on the braking.
You know, it's interesting. Here's where the slingshot apparently is coming into play. You wouldn't think that at speeds the slingshot would work, but Buck has proved it had, and he used the same method Spinard did. And that was the 13th lap. There's 2 and a fraction laps to go. Let's see if Mr. Spinard can recapture the lead. It's been a seesaw race so far, and a good one. Here's Spinard now on Lakeshore, wanting to outbreak him. Let's see if he ducks down underneath him going into the corner here. Not this time. And very, very close. Now, Buck has a slower car in front of him. This Spinard could use to his advantage.
Well, if you get him right up to it, and then you can take the slower car and yourself, but you've got to find a line here. And again, although there are some wide portions of this circuit, especially on Lakeshore Drive, you still have the problems of the narrow sections too, and some of those turns.
This is an interesting race here.
Here they come once again now as they come through the traffic. 2 laps to go. And we see Spinard trailing as they've managed to negotiate the slower traffic now, and they'll find some open road in front of them. That ever-present dangling tail light coming off Robin Buck's car. Spinard now behind him.
Well, it's interesting that the passing has taken place not really where we thought most of it would at the end of Lakeshore Drive, but in this high-speed section with the bend. And as they cross the stripe, it'll be 1 lap to go.
So the final lap now, and we'll watch these two because they are, well, we'll see what Spinard can do with his experience against the young driver who has got the lead on him now at a time when you don't want to be trailing, going into the final lap.
He's going to have to outbrake him if he wants to get it.
The yellow flag is being waved here at the
start-finish line.
Start-finish line.
Down the track. Oops, and look at that. He had to go. How about that? His brakes gave way, and he had to take to the runoff area, and Buck loses it. Unbelievable.
Had the pressure on him all the way through that, and Robin Buck finally just had no brakes. That's exactly what happened, and we predicted that kind of a situation would exist. Now he has lost a lot of ground, and so it'll be Richard Spinard now into his final lap. Spinard, Robin Buck apparently is out of it, and racing in second place now, car number 47, driven by Wayne Harper, who's going to move right up into contention here in the point standings. Harper from Bolton, Ontario, is in second place.
Amazing.
Well, we're waiting for the checkered flag here at Exhibition Place in Toronto in what has been a very eventful Players' Challenge race.
Look at the nose piece on Spinard's car. Oh, that. Here's the checkered flag.
Checkered flag, and Richard Spinard has won his 4th race in this series. So Spinard, just by keeping the pressure, and again, it's the veteran against the young driver, but he had the pressure on Robin Buck all the way through, and it just flat lost his brakes.
Buck just nosed in ahead of car number 47, handled by Wayne Harper, just a half a car length ahead to get second place. That shows how far ahead they were. He made a U-turn, came back, and rejoined the competition.
Unofficially, we can give you the standings as our lap chartist has got them for us right now. Richard Spinard, the unofficial winner, followed by Robin Buck of Willowdale, Ontario, apparently got back onto the track in time to get second place. So Buck manages to pick up those second place points. Third is Wayne Harper of Bolton, Ontario, followed by Tom Jones Jr. of Thunder Bay, Ontario. Good race for him. Sean Burgess of Orangeville, Ontario was 5th, and Derek Johnson finishes in 6th place in car number 93. Ian Corristine in 7th place, and right after him in car number 25, in 6th place, car number 25 was driven by Tony Corcoran. So there it is. Richard Spinard, Robin Buck, and Wayne Harper. 1, 2, 3. The top 5 pick up prize money in this race. We'll return to the Players' Challenge race in a moment. Well, the victory lap for Richard Spinard, who wins again on a rather eventful Saturday in Toronto. He had all kinds of trouble, and not only that, his whole day was a busy one, starting with qualifying, crashing a car this morning, qualifying another one, having that disqualified, going back to teach classes, then coming back and winning the race, and this is what the difference in the race was.
Okay, here Buck comes out as they're going down Lakeshore Drive. Watch Buck's car, the red one, white flag, the white line out. At this point, he wants brakes, and he doesn't have them. You can see the car moving from side to side as he tries to save it. He thinks better of trying to make the corner, and he takes the escape road, letting Spinard go by. Now, you see here how far down it goes before it finally comes to a stop. Now, to give you an idea of how much of an advantage those two had over the third place man, he made a U-turn, went back, and still got second place. So, here is Richard Spinard finishing that oh-so-sweet victory lap.
And for Of course, Richard Spinard, it is not an unfamiliar feeling at all. At the age of 32, he started his racing in 1973. Let's go down now to Dan Matheson. Dan?
Don Brown is the Vice President of Marketing for Imperial Tobacco, a company which has been sponsoring auto racing in this country since 1961. And the very first winner in this country was Sterling Moss, and drivers who've come and gone through your series have been the likes of Bobby Rahal, Kevin Cogan. It must be very gratifying to you, Don, to see the kind of race we saw today.
It really is. We think the drivers of these Camaros and these Firebirds really put on a tremendous show, and it's very exciting for everybody here and for us to be part of it.
Well, it must be fun, too, to see people that have driven for you in the series, grown up, as it were, in auto racing, go on to be involved in a race like tomorrow, like Cogan and Rahal.
Right, and Michael Andretti, and of course our own Jacques Villeneuve, all raced in players' events of one kind or another in Canada. So.
You enjoyed the race today?
I did. I thought it's a lot of fun. It's street cars, you can relate to them, and it's just a great series.
Tell me how auto racing fits in with your overall scheme of promotions.
Well, we find auto racing a very exciting, popular event, and we happen to market a brand that's very popular, and the two just get together. It's about as simple as that.
Don, thanks very much. I know you have to get back up on the podium there for the presentations. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thanks very much.
Don Brown, the Vice President of Marketing for Imperial Tobacco. Let's go back now to the booth to Ron and Chris.
Well, the car is coming off the track now. I'd have to say that the very first race on this circuit was a rather eventful one. A very interesting race, and the drivers put on a pretty good show.
You know, we're not only producing racing drivers in this series, Ron, we're also going to give the body workers of Greater Toronto some exercise next week. I've never seen so many bent-in noses, and the sides of the cars are dinged up. There's been a lot of cosmetic damage done to these cars, and they have to be in perfect trim for the next round. The front corners are off of several of them. The back has been pushed in on several of them. It's been quite a tough day on equipment.
There's little Richard Spinard being led over to victory lane. Should mention as we look at the top 10 that tomorrow, if you think these cars did something on this circuit, wait till you get the high-powered Indianapolis-style machinery out here with the Mario Andretti's. And we've, of course, had our qualifying today with Emerson Fittipaldi and Bobby Rahal qualifying for the front row, and a very interesting development in the way they qualified here on this tight circuit, Chris. There's a lot of road racers are near the top.
Oh, most of the top ones. What's going to be interesting to me, Ron, is the fact that they're going to go out on a track that has so much more rubber on it, thanks to the race we've just seen tomorrow. Fittipaldi lapped at 60.312 seconds, just over a minute, for 106.248 miles an hour, and he worked very hard to get down to that speed. He's a veteran Europe. He's a Brazilian, but he raced throughout the European circuits, and he knows, and he's going to have a tough man in front of him, Bobby Rahal, this year's Indy 500 winner, starting side by side at the rolling start in the Molson Indy Toronto tomorrow.
All right, we'll go down now for the, at least we will be in a moment, going down for the presentation ceremonies here, as we have our top winners. The top 5 actually get money in this race, and Richard Spinard, of course, is our winner.
Molson Indy race weekend for 1986. They really made it exciting out there, and fortunately, most got home without any major incident. We'll start the formalities in about a minute or two.
And while we've got the moment, let's go through the Indianapolis-style grid, the Molson Indy tomorrow here at Exhibition Place. And as you mentioned, the front row with Emerson Fittipaldi of Brazil and Bobby Rahal. And then after that,
well, we've got Mario Andretti, a man who has won not only the World Championship, but the Indianapolis 500 and the Daytona 500 for stock car races. But what to me is interesting, Ron, is that the prize fund for tomorrow's Molson Indy race, $840,000, makes it the richest sporting event ever presented in the Dominion of Canada.
How about that? So, with Mario, Roberto Moreno, Danny Sullivan, of course, spin and win, or is that bump and run, Danny? This year, of course, at the Meadowlands, he bumped Bobby Rahal out of the way and won his first race of the year. He's won back-to-back, and he could be a favorite in here. He's familiar with the tight street courses. He raced them, of course, in places like in various places in the Formula Atlantic Series, so the road circuits are very good. All right, Dan Mathis is down below, and he's got our winner. Dan? Now, we've got some problems with Dan Matheson's mic, so Richard Spinard, of course, up in the victory area. But as we watch Richard, again, we'll look at that grid. Jacques Villeneuve, who came up through Formula Atlantic and is now in the Indy-style cars, is qualified in the 4th row.
You know, Villeneuve was having all kinds of trouble in the early practice sessions here at this nice course, Ron, and he just pulled it all out this morning. He was using his backup car, and it wasn't working right, and his primary car had trouble. And this guy has really got his sleeves rolled up for this race tomorrow. Jacques Villeneuve at number 71, the Canadian Tire March. I look for great things from Villeneuve tomorrow. But, of course, it's the veterans that we're going to look at. Fittipaldi, Rahal, Alfredo Moreno, Sullivan, and Guerrero up front.
Okay, Chris, on behalf of Chris Economaki and Dan Matheson, our congratulations to Richard Spinard, who wins again in the Players' Challenge Series. Richard Spinard, the winner in the very first race here at Exhibition Place. On behalf of Chris and Dan, this is Ron Roosh saying so long until tomorrow from Exhibition Place in Toronto.